In 2016, an NBA beat writer named Josh Cohen published an article titled 2015 NBA Draft to be the best NBA draft class ever. And in this article he wrote, "I am already declaring that the 2015 NBA draft will be considered one of the greatest drafts in league history. I apologize in advance if you are reading this in 2025 and that belief couldn't be further from the truth." Well, the year is 2023 and it is safe to say that that was a freezing cold take by Josh. In fact, the exact opposite take could now be argued. Picks 5 through 10 of this draft only started 11 games during the 2022-23 season combined. So without further ado, where are they now? Every lottery pick from the 2015 NBA draft.
With the first pick in the 2015 NBA draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Karl-Anthony Towns from the University of Kentucky.
At least my Timberwolves did not mess this one up. Cat was Rookie of the Year in 2016, and after his sophomore season, he was voted by NBA GMs as the #1 player they would build a team around. Karl went on to become the most prolific three-point shooting center ever and made 3 All-Star teams. But considering the hype he had after that sophomore campaign, his career has left a lot to be desired. We'll see what the Timberwolves can do this season with a prime Cat and a potential top 10 player in the NBA, Anthony Edwards.
The Los Angeles Lakers select D'Angelo Russell from The Ohio State University.
D'Angelo Russell has had a very interesting career. I think he's the only player to have earned a max contract and been traded 4 times, all before turning 28 years old. That Nets season he had remains his best and is the reason he ever got a max deal. Now going into his first full season back with the Lakers, D'Angelo will finally look to prove he's a player a team can trust come playoff time.
The Philadelphia 76ers select Jahlil Okafor from Duke University.
With the 76ers 2014 first-round pick Joel Embiid injured, Jahlil Okafor averaged 18 points and 7 rebounds in his rookie year. Now, that was on a terrible 76ers team, but the only other centers to average those numbers as a rookie since 1990 were Alonzo Mourning, David Robinson, Shaquille O'Neal, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Joel Embiid. But unfortunately, that was by far Jahlil's best statistical season of his career. After his second season with Philly, he was traded to the Nets and never averaged over 10 points per game again. Jahlil was pretty much out of the league by 2021, and he recently signed to play this upcoming season in the Liga ACB in Spain.
The New York Knicks select Kristaps Porzingis from Liepāja, Latvia.
We all remember the reaction in New York City when the Knicks took Kristaps. Boos, kids crying, everyone hated the pick. But a little foreshadowing here, it ended up being the last decent pick in the top 10 of this draft. Kristaps has gone on to average 20 points and 8 rebounds in his career with the Knicks, Mavericks, and most recently in Washington. Kristaps is now coming off arguably the best season of his career, both statistically and health-wise, as he heads off to Boston to help lead them to a championship.
Mario Hezonja.
This is when the draft takes an awful turn for the worse. Fran Fraschilla said Mario Hezonja could one day win an NBA slam dunk contest or 3-point contest, and he called him the best shooter in the draft. This draft was loaded with freezing cold takes. Hezonja lasted just 5 seasons in the NBA with the Magic, Knicks, and Blazers. He never shot above 35% on threes and never averaged 10 points per game. Mario now also plays in Spain in the Liga ACB and EuroLeague.
The Sacramento Kings select Willie CauleyStein from the University of Kentucky.
Willie CauleyStein was supposed to be the NBA's next great rim protector. He certainly wasn't expected to be a scoring monster, considering he only averaged 9 points per game as a junior at Kentucky. Now, Willie did have some solid years as a rim-running big man for the Kings, but after he was moved to Golden State in 2019, his production slipped throughout the rest of his career. Willie played a few games with both the Mavericks and 76ers during the 2021-22 NBA season, but that was his last. This summer, Willie CauleyStein signed to play in Italy.
The Denver Nuggets select Emmanuel Mudie.
Emmanuel Mudie had a ton of hype heading into the draft. He was a 6'5" big and athletic point guard, and some sites were even comparing him to John Wall. Like a lot of guys in this class, Mudie put up numbers in his rookie year, averaging 13 points and 6 assists a game for the Nuggets. But like a lot of guys in this class, that ended up being one of his best seasons statistically. After 2.5 seasons in Denver, Mudie was traded to the Knicks for Doug McDermott. Now, he had somewhat of a career resurgence during his second season in New York, averaging 15 and 4, but the 2019-20 season was his last receiving NBA minutes. He then spent some time in the G League, but is now signed to play in Puerto Rico at just 27 years old.
The Detroit Pistons select Stanley Johnson.
I personally thought Stanley Johnson was going to be a beast. He's just built like an NBA All-Star. But Stanley never amounted to anything more than a role player in his career, and he's now just battling for NBA minutes. Stanley had a decent run with the Lakers 2 years ago and appeared in 30 games this past season with the Spurs.
The Charlotte Hornets select Frank Kaminsky from the University of Wisconsin.
Frank Kaminsky was coming off an incredible Final Four run with Wisconsin that made his draft stock skyrocket, and it may have gone up a little too much. Frank was a solid offensive player in his early years with the Hornets and was a rotational player on the 2021 Suns team that made the finals, but Frank too is now fighting for an NBA roster spot. He played in 36 games this past year with both the Hawks and the Rockets, averaging just 2.5 points per game.
The Miami Heat select Justice Winslow from Duke University.
Jay Bilas said at the 2015 NBA draft that some of Winslow's attributes were LeBron-like, and many saw this pick as a major steal for the Heat at number 10. Well, Winslow only averaged 9 points per game in his 5 seasons with Miami, and he has bounced around teams in the last few years. Winslow played last season with the Blazers, where he started 11 games. I want to take a look back at pick number 5. The Orlando Magic were on the clock looking to turn their franchise around with this first round pick, and they were essentially choosing between Mario Hezonja, Willie CauleyStein, Emmanuel Mudie, Stanley Johnson, Frank Kaminsky, and Justice Winslow. There was pretty much nothing they could do with that pick that would have been a win, unless they would have reached for one of these next few guys.
The Indiana Pacers select Miles Turner from the University of Texas.
Finally, a team in this draft that hit on their lottery pick. Miles Turner became a very solid starting center for the Pacers. He represents a very rare NBA archetype, a player that can both knock down threes at a high clip and block shots. Miles has never made an All-Star team, and the Pacers haven't found too much success in the playoffs, but for the 11th overall pick in an otherwise very weak draft, this was a win for the Pacers.
The Utah Jazz select Trey Lyles.
Trey Lyles is a guy that has slowly gotten better and better throughout his career. He didn't provide too much for Utah in his first 2 seasons. His role increased during his 2 seasons in Denver, but he has really solidified himself as a positive role player in the past few years with Sacramento. He played in 74 games for the Light the Beam Kings last season. The best player in this entire draft was taken at number 13.
The Phoenix Suns select Devin Booker from the University of Kentucky.
Sometimes you just wonder how an NBA team could have possibly thought that a guy like Frank Kaminsky was going to have a better NBA career than Devin Booker. But you have to remember that Booker did not even start during his 1 season at Kentucky. His offense just boomed once he reached the NBA. Devin Booker was just 20 years old when he had that 70-point game. Booker is now entering his 9th season with the Suns with 3 All-Star appearances and 1 conference championship. Now I guess we'll see if he can make one last leap to MVP status.
The Oklahoma City Thunder select Cameron Payne from Murray State University.
Cameron Payne was almost out of the league by his 4th or 5th season, but his career resurgence came when he joined the Phoenix Suns backing up Chris Paul, and he is now one of the most well-respected backup point guards in the NBA. That's gonna do it for this video. Make sure you drop a like if you want to see other draft class where are they nows, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out the one where I talk about 7 times NBA draft experts were dead wrong. As always, thank you guys so much for the support, and we'll see you in the next one.